Brand new info on how your tap water may be tainted in a way you don't even know. I'll reveal how tonight at 11. No, actually, I'll reveal it in like 20 seconds. Just hang on just a second. While we spend all day arguing whether a billionaire man-child has tainted the raging river of information that is Twitter, we have many severely tainted real rivers here in the United States. Not just rivers, but water supplies of all sorts in Illinois, Michigan, Colorado, Hawaii, Arizona, and more. Tainted water that kills humans, animals, and real birds that do the real tweeting. Like they're the OG tweeters. But no one cares because reality is so 1900s. The other day I had to talk to a human. I was like, Jesus, they still make you? What is this? So here it is. A new investigation has looked into the extent to which U.S. water supplies are contaminated with uranium. You heard me right. But maybe it's the good kind of uranium that turns you into Spider-Man or the Incredible Hulk, and not the bad kind of uranium that turns you into Thyroid Cancer Man. You know, one of the lesser-known Marvel superheroes. That movie did really poorly at the box office. ProPublica has come out with an investigation titled The Cold War Legacy Lurking in U.S. Groundwater. You see, after World War II, the Cold War started between the Soviet Union and the U.S. because we needed to stop the damn communists from pushing their furry hats on everyone. I'm not wearing a furry beaver on my head, except on weekends. And there was a feverish need to build loads of nuclear weapons. To do that, we needed uranium, and America's rulers at the time didn't give a crap how they got it. More than 50 uranium mines popped up across the western U.S., but they didn't just turn our weapons radioactive, they also dumped radioactive and toxic waste into rivers, like the Cheyenne in South Dakota and the Animas in Colorado. Some of the more than 250 million tons of toxic and radioactive detritus scattered into nearby communities. Some spilled into streams, and some leaked into aquifers. Luckily for the U.S. government at the time, most of the people having their lives destroyed by radioactive detritus were either Native Americans or poor or both. And as we well know, none of those types of people matter to our ruling class. Not at all, not then, and not now. The ruling class doesn't care about anybody unless you have enough money to have a minimum of one backup tax haven for when your first tax haven floods due to climate change. Look, providing clean water is like the most basic level of what a government should do for its people. If you're gonna have a government of any kind for a group of humans, step one, in order to prove to the people that you deserve to exist, is to provide them with water that doesn't have anything swimming or floating in it and isn't radioactive. And our U.S. government, the richest in the world, can't do that for us, which puts this country at the level of like a failed state or like a tree fort. That's a tree fort. And this is nothing new. The U.S. government, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of corporate America, has a long and prolific history of polluting its own people's drinking water. Because YOLO, right? You only live once. And that once will be shorter because of the water thing. Of course, everyone knows about the lead-tainted water of Flint, Michigan. But did you know that in 2016, excessive lead levels were found in almost 2,000 water systems across all 50 states? And other than sickness and death, lead poisoning can cause diminished cognitive abilities. Don't you just hear that and go, oh, that explains a lot. That reads. You take the American people, feed them a mixture of lead, water, and antidepressants, and the result is a nice, dumb, slack-jawed, emotionless ocean of drone workers who don't complain too much. And if that doesn't infuriate you, then ease off the lead Zoloft cocktail! This year, shocking levels of toxic lead were found in Chicago's tap water. But of course, it goes far beyond lead. Also this year, a lawsuit alleged the Navy harbored toxic secrets after jet fuel leaked from a storage facility in Red Hill, Hawaii, operated by the Navy, contaminating locals' drinking water and sickening hundreds of families. A 9-month investigation by The Guardian last year sampled tap water across the U.S. and found arsenic, lead, and toxic chemicals. Arsenic water. Reminds me of the kind Gammy used to make. Until she tried some. No more Gammy. Then there was also, just a few years ago, when people were complaining their tap water was flammable due to hydrofracking in the area.
Just like that.
But you don't know that that was caused by fracking. Maybe she just had the knob turned like way to the hot, like way hot, you know, or maybe they accidentally hooked her kitchen pipes up to the devil's anus, which is what I call Norman, Oklahoma. Actually, a peer-reviewed scientific study linked flammable drinking water to fracking. Which begs the question, what in God's name are they putting in the water that makes it light up like the Hindenburg on the 4th of July? Well, we don't really know because of something called the Halliburton loophole. This loophole amended the Safe Drinking Water Act, a major tool the EPA uses to keep our drinking water clean, to provide an exemption for the fluids used in hydraulic fracturing or fracking. As a result, the EPA does not have the legal authority to regulate fracking fluids. Basically, Dick Cheney sprayed his secret sauce in the country's water supply, and now that water is spicy hot. But fracking is old news. Let's get back to the uranium in our water that you never hear about. Congress eventually created an agency to oversee the pollution and cleanup from the mills in 1974, and they enacted the law governing that process in 1978. But the industry would soon collapse due to falling uranium prices and rising safety concerns. Most mills closed by the mid-1980s. Many of the leaks of cancer-causing radon gas were indeed stopped years ago. Insert joke here about putting a cork in Steve Bannon's ass. But the government has fallen down in addressing another lingering threat from the industry's byproducts, widespread water pollution. At least 84% of the sites have polluted groundwater. 84%? That means the sites without polluted groundwater are the accident. They're the anomaly. Oh shit, sir, we just checked the local tap water and it turns out it's not radioactive. I don't know, should we tell townspeople not to drink it or maybe we should have cancer-causing water shipped in that they could drink instead? I don't know how this happened. And only 25% of the containment ponds, or detritus lagoons, if you will, have full liners stopping that polluted water from leaking into the ground. But I guess we shouldn't be surprised by this. The unofficial motto of the EPA has long been, we do it right 25% of the time. Booyah, up top. But here's the thing, with all of this pollution, you would expect that there would be an increase in cancer rates around those areas. But in fact, yeah, there totally was. A lot, not good. It's just not good. It's not good there. Reports by government agencies found high concentrations of cancer near a mill in Utah and elevated cancer risks from mill waste in New Mexico. And perhaps the only reason they haven't found increased cancer in all the populations around all of the polluted mines is because they haven't studied all those areas around all the mines. That's one of the most surefire ways to fix bad things. Don't study them. I find looking into the harm caused by stuff almost always makes that stuff seem worse. Like that time when I was 14 and I put a pigeon head in Mr. Hathaway's mailbox to teach him a lesson. I never checked up to see if that pigeon recovered. I assume he did. I see pigeons all the time. He could be one of them. Maybe. So our government actually did come up with a long-term plan to deal with these uranium mills and mines. It had to do with a partial cleanup by the companies involved, and then each location would get passed off to the EPA to complete the cleanup, and then eventually it would be declared completely safe. ProPublica's analysis found that half of the country's former mills haven't made it through this process, and even many that did have never fully addressed pollution concerns. Regulators granted groundwater cleanup exemptions at 18 of the 28 sites, where cleanup has been deemed complete. Exemptions. So even the mills that made it through the cleanup process, most of them made it through because the EPA lowered the standards to pretend they made it through the process. Yeah, anything can be deemed clean if you just rewrite your rules and mark it clean. I can take a dump on your dining room table and declare it clean if you want me to. I'll wear a little badge, I'll have a little hat on, I'll put an inspection sticker on it, whatever you need. Here's another fact about uranium pollution you might not find shocking. It's been set up to disproportionately harm Native Americans. 6 of the mills were built on reservations and another 8 mills are within 5 miles of one, some polluting aquifers used by tribes. And the country's last conventional uranium mill, still in operation, the White Mesa Mill in Utah, sits adjacent to a Ute Mountain Ute community. Yeah, it really is time we stuck it to the Native Americans. They've had it too easy for too long. There are so many uranium mines, mills, and waste piles around the Navajo Nation that the EPA created a comic book superhero to warn, I'm not kidding, to warn Navajo children to keep away from the areas. That superhero is Gamma Goat. Yes, Gamma Goat tells kids to keep the fuck away. Apparently, it never occurred to Gamma Goat to clean up the goddamn sites. How about that? Get his goat ass busy doing what the government claimed they were going to do from the beginning. But on top of that, come on. You guys couldn't do better than Gamma Goat? How about, I don't know, Three-Eyed Jimmy or Birth Defect Betsy? Something catchy that would scare the kids away. Here, give me the pen. I'll do it. Anyway, as mentioned earlier, the minimum a government of any nation should be able to do for their people is provide clean water. Some don't do it because they're too poor. But for other nations like the US, it's either because they're too corrupt or the ruling class simply doesn't give a shit. For the good old US of A, it happens to be both. Our government is both bought off by corporate America and they couldn't care less about average people. Please see my previous comment. This is a failed state. Maybe one day, Gamma Goat will save us all. That's your Most Censored News for this week. I hope you will click subscribe and click the bell icon so you can find out about other episodes. Also, check out the Most Censored News interview series, which we do 2 a week. I just talked to Julian Assange's father, John Shipton, and Katie Halper last week, co-host of Useful Idiots. Please check those out at youtube.com/behindtheheadlines and keep fighting.